Welcome to Over the Curb, the podcast dedicated to empowering truck dealerships and remarketing professionals. Hosted by Ethan Nadolson, a seasoned expert in inventory management, marketing, and used truck sales, and the CEO of SOAR. Tune in as we talk shop with industry leaders, dive into the challenges and opportunities of remarketing, and explore how to maximize your inventory's potential and get your trucks off the lot and over the curb.
Hey, welcome back to Over the Curb. This is Ethan Adolson. I'll be your host today, and I have Ramon Islas on here with us today, and very excited to have him on. We've been on some panels together and had lots of great conversation around digital marketing. I think that's a passion for both of us. And so first of all, welcome, Ramon. Thanks for being on today.
Thanks for having me, Ethan. I really appreciate it. Thank you. How's everybody else? Hope you guys are well.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, today I think is going to be a pretty fun conversation, and we're going to break down a lot around digital marketing, and we're going to get a little bit away from some of the traditional, listings and things like that, and dive into some deeper subjects that I think people are very interested in, especially in today's day and age, and maybe a little AI. I don't know, Ramon. We'll see where things go.
That sounds good.
Yeah. Before I begin, would you mind just giving our audience, you've got a great background in digital marketing, and with Fusible that you work for, which is also, Randall Riley. People might know that name, but Fusible is the company that that Ramon's with here. So, Ramon, can you give us just a quick background on some of your history and why we're talking today?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, my name is Ramon Islas. I'm the digital strategy manager for Fusible. We were, again, Randall Riley. We're still part of Randall Riley. They're our sister company. We're just split off. Prior to that, though, I was the franchise manager for a large digital agency out of Phoenix, Arizona called V Digital Services. I dealt with about 450 different accounts, pulled all the levers, made all the bells, dings, and whistles go, did all the activation, execution, creative aspects, pretty much analytics, kind of front to back, top to bottom. And prior to that, where I got a lot of my working knowledge is I was a direct contractor for Google. I worked with agencies specifically to ensure the best use and practices of Google's product practices, whether it had to do with analytics, the digital marketing concepts, search, building creative, building content, URL freshing, anything like that. Did that for quite a while, and now I'm here. So
awesome. And we're so glad you're here with us. And yeah, so Ramon, digital marketing, man, that's a big topic. So I think it's not just a big topic, but I think it's also kind of a scary topic, especially, there's no doubt that some of the people in our industry have been around for 30, 40 years, and it's been a little bit different landscape out there going back even 10 years, but let alone 20, 30 years. The digital age has really evolved rapidly. And I think today more than ever, it's important to not only understand, but embrace what that looks like. I've always talked about having a multifaceted marketing plan. You can't just put all your eggs in one basket and say, oh, I advertise with blank, and that's my marketing plan. Right. And I have a website that I check the box and just say, oh, well, these guys supply a website for me, so check that box and walk away and you're done. Today, you're going to fall behind if that's your entire strategy, right? So that's why we're talking today, to maybe break this down a little bit and also get rid of some of the fear, is what I'm going to call it. I think some people have fear of just the unknown. So maybe we can make this more of a realistic kind of thing and talk about an approach. So can you kind of break down some different parts of digital marketing that a dealership should be paying attention to? And then I'd like to go into explaining what some of these things mean for those of you that don't understand. For the marketers out there, just bear with us through that part. But we're going to get to some really good meat here, I think, today.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I think a lot of dealerships should focus on, and I think that it does get left by the wayside, is really their local campaigns and local traffic, where their brick and mortar stores are, where they actually can drive in, physical foot traffic where people can come and have a conversation. I know a lot of times the used truck market, people can sell all across the board. There technically is no area of record out there. People, as long as they're looking to purchase a vehicle and it's used and it fits their wheelhouse, there are people who are willing to travel. However, one of the things I've noticed, since I do work with quite a few dealers right now at Fusible, is a lot of times the local aspects of ensuring that your brick and mortar shops are getting not only their day in the sun, but are really basking in that glow of local and transient traffic that come through, whether it's, a specific corridor where you have a location, or if you have, 4 or 5 locations in the state of Texas that you really want to start dominating that Texas area. One of the biggest things around is to ensure that you are showing up very high on Google's local traffic, right? You want to make sure that all of your business listings that you may have that show up on any of the search engines that Google crawls, right? There are ways to find this out, actually, and maybe I can give Ethan some information on this, but you can go and look at what are the top 20 to 25 major search crawlers that Google uses or indexes to find your business location, right? Does the initial business location in your Google My Business match up to every other search engine that's out there that's using you or trying to find you, right? That's a huge thing that people are like, well, why is that important? Well, the reason that's important is, say your competitor takes time to do that, and they only go and true up 10 of the search engines, and they don't true up the other 15, but naturally you only have 3 or 4 trued up. They're just going to get just an armload of traffic, of quality traffic, and they're also going to dominate that local space much more than you would, simply because their business listing is going to show up so many more places. Since the accuracy is correct, it matches your actual, your address, your phone numbers match, the company LLC, everything the way it's supposed to look matches. And that's ultimately how Google indexes you when you're showing up on those search results, whether it's organically or pay-per-click, matters not. That's how Google indexes you, is by finding you through these search engines to ensure they're giving a popular search to the user.
Yeah, and I have to laugh because I had this conversation just today with somebody, and you and I don't think we've ever actually talked about this topic, but you are 100% on the money. So when you're talking about search engine optimization, guys, it's not always about your website. It's about your digital presence, okay? And I know that's kind of confusing to some, because you're like, oh, my website is my digital presence, but it's not. And Ramon, these companies like Yellow Pages or Yelp or
Correct.
I don't know, there's probably 150 of them, but even getting down into Alexa and TomTom, Apple Maps, different companies like that, or search sites or directories that you're referring to, are getting this information, whether you want them to have it or not, through registration data. If you have a building or a car or
right,
a business application or anything like that, they're going out sourcing these names and they're building out their Yellow Pages, right? However, I think something you said there was key, and they're called, I know them as data collisions. So if you have your dealership name, Ramon's Truck Sales, but then it's Ramon's Truck Sales LLC or Ramon's Trucks, Ramon's Fancy Trucks on something else, just wherever they pull this data from,
right,
that is a data collision. So if all of these different search engines and directories have that conflicting information in them, Google can't trust you. And I'm gonna go a step further and say AI can't trust you. So if somebody's searching in AI, it's not going to trust those listings because they're different. The address is different, the phone number is different, things are different, and that just doesn't add up to a computer, right? A computer is going to look for that consistency, is what you're talking about. Is that?
Yeah, you're 100% hitting on the head. So the best way to explain that is, and I've seen this a lot for dealerships, right? One dealership will have control of, say, the Google Ads account. So they'll have the control of the Google My Business and the MCC. Then another dealership, who technically is part of that dealership, but is simply an offshoot of that dealership, will then have control of the Facebook account, but still using that name dealership's name, right? So then you have, let's just say you have ABC dealership here that manages the Google, and their address is 1234 South Wynn Street, right? Then you have that same dealership, but it's a different location, and it says, you know, ABC dealership here, but the address is 456 Don't Win Street, right? Well, that's going to come up when you enter one in Google and you enter one in Facebook. At that point, the search engines themselves start to ask themselves, well, where's the truth? Which one is the real one, right?
Yep.
Your typical real one would be housed within Google. Google is the major search engine. It's the largest search engine on the planet. It does house both of the largest search engines, which is Google and YouTube. They're literally one in one, right? There's the same pea in a pod. The next one behind that would be Facebook, followed by Bing. Then you have Yahoo. Then you have other search engines and other business listings like City Squares and Arrive Business and Net Local Biz, right? That actually go and look for, does this business name match up to the source of truth? And does the phone number match up to the same? Do they all look the same? And when you do, that's really what helps your local ranking, is because at that point, if you're completely trued up when it comes to business name, address, and phone across all the platforms and search engines you can think of, like Ethan is talking about, your data collision, there is no data collision because everything is literally seamless. At that point, you're driving down the internet highway with no obstructions whatsoever, and your business is now not only going to be focused on locally and prominently, but it will have good actual effects in your overall organic growth as well, because now organically the search engine knows that this is 100% where he is located, and that will also help you in your organic growth as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Your positioning in Google is going to move up, and also you'll show up under those other directories. So I know we had one dealership. We provide that service. I think you guys have a similar thing. Yes. But as you start to normalize this data out there, guys, what happens is you'll see not only your website come up, but you'll see your Yellow Pages listing come up on first page potentially, or Yelp or other things like that. Even if not searching on your dealership directly, but just saying, hey, I need, international truck in Tyler, Texas, or something like that, then you can come up at the top of that list, beating out your competitors that are in there, and you can dominate that very first page of Google even. Yeah. No, man, that's an excellent point. I'm glad you started there, because I think that gets the stage set for success, because at that point in time, you are always selling to your client for sure. However, you also have to sell to the search engines. And this is the key component, in my opinion, of your website has to be structured properly. We could have a whole podcast about the way that's done. Yeah. But I'm going to stay away from that for right now, just to say that there's some out there that don't do it very well and not in your best interest. Others do it really well and have the dealer's best interest in mind, how all of that's construction. And some people just don't know. So therefore, it's just not constructed well, because they just, nothing malicious or anything, they just don't understand. Yeah. So I want to stay just a little bit away from that. But to say that the local listings, that's where you're going to sell to Google. And I'm saying Google, but it's all the search engines. So when they see that data is consistent across the board, and again, AI is very quickly adopting to this as well. So as they go out and, ChatGPT, Anthropic, Claude or Copilot, or some of these other AI systems are going out and looking for, hey, who's the best used truck dealer? Where should I buy a used truck around me in Dallas, Texas, or Columbus, Ohio, or wherever you are, or that searcher is, then it's going to return those results to the most trusted results, and consistency is the key. So yep. I love that you brought that up.
And one thing not to let slip through the cracks here, Ethan, listings is one thing you want to get trued up, right? You want to have your business listing seamless. It wants to appear across very many key online directories, like I told you, like Facebook and Google and stuff like that. But another thing that you want to make sure of true, which is, again, the organic portion of it, is that you are ranking locally for keywords that, again, a lot of dealers, especially used dealers, don't think about, right? So, and what I mean by that is, if you're an international dealer, I mean, naturally, yes, I know if you're doing some Google organic search, right, you're going to use keywords like international or model numbers for international and things like that, or international near me, just for the geo focuses using that near me targeting. But also one of the things you may want to start thinking about doing as well is offering things organically that also may drive happenstance truck sales, and things like international service expert, international maintenance and part expert, international parts availability, international onboard customs, international electric customs, things that technically people are looking for very specifically that they can't go to a standard service shop for, right? They may need somebody who has not only the expertise, but what if you guys do specialize in drivetrains, right? Or what if you do specialize in ensuring proper weight and axle alignment? What if that is your bread and butter? You want to focus on the things that make not only your used trucks stand out as far as models and getting that organic keyword in there, but you also want to start focus on things that are complementary to used truck sales. And in my opinion, are like the peanut butter to the jelly when it comes to used truck sales. Someone's going to come and buy a used truck. Great. The one thing they're going to need if they want longevity in that truck automatically is going to be service. And nothing, in my opinion, sells a used truck like a great service department, right? Especially if you can go to someone and say, man, I know I'm buying a used truck from this guy here in Texarkana because his service department is great and also his vehicles are great. Why would I go anywhere else? So that just leads, it helps, again, just compile your business and make you stand out so much more versus the other people who are unwilling, as Ethan said, to make that change. And you're right, changing something like this and dipping your toe in this, what used to be a small digital pond, which is now a vast digital sea, it can be scaring, it can be daunting. But, you know, having people like Ethan and like me there to discuss these things with you guys can definitely, you know, help. And obviously we do this kind of deal at Fusible. I know Ethan offered this kind of stuff here with SOAR. There's several other places that do something very similar, right? And I would behoove you to take a chance, take an opportunity, whether it's with me or Ethan or any of our other competitors out there. Anybody who's looking, you would be missing the boat and in essence putting your business behind the times. And I will say, and I have said this before, and this will be my mantra, this is no longer your father's truck shop, right? This is actually the new digital age. We're now being forced to deal with compliance things when it comes to electric vehicles, which didn't even exist 10 years ago, right? And then you're now having regulations, and then you also have the new driver that's coming in, someone who wants a slimline vehicle purchase. They want to be able to do everything online. They don't want to go old school and shake your hand. A lot of things are changing, and all this does is help you ultimately adapt to that change, especially by simply dipping your toe and you will see the benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, couldn't agree more. Okay, so we're talking about like getting into our local market. Now let's kind of expand that out. So what are some other areas that you're seeing that are critical for dealerships to be paying attention to today that are maybe outside of that? And I've got lots of thoughts on this, but I'd love to hear what you have to say.
It's that is a bit of a loaded question there, Ethan, because I've got tons of thoughts on that too. I think one of the biggest things that dealers kind of put by the wayside, because maybe it used to be different. Now, with the way that people operate and with the way that whether you're a fleet manager or whether you're an owner operator looking for a single vehicle or, you know, a mom and pop smaller fleet who's looking for a fleet of 5, right? Images sell. And one of the biggest things that I've seen that dealers do is they sell short their inventory, but not letting the picture sell the vehicle for them, right? So I'll see someone who's like, yeah, we got 2 or 3 pictures of the vehicle. And in my mind, I'm thinking, you know, if I wanted 2 or 3 pictures of your vehicle, I could just go onto Google and look at 2 or 3 pictures of a vehicle without even having to take a look at yours. Why should I take a look at yours? And ultimately, here's the other thing. If as a dealer, you're going to take the time to capture images or capture, as I call it, creative for digital advertising, make it look good. capture several different views, an inside and outside. Maybe the body's raised or disconnected. Maybe the trailer's there. Maybe it's up on all axles. Maybe it's showing parts. Maybe it's in with the hood up in the service department. I think a lot of times, and I even do this, I focus on what I like. And then I take a step back because I'm a dad of 5 daughters. No gray hair, strictly bald because of it, right? But I take a step back and remember, like, what I like, I'm sure that my 4-year-old doesn't like, and I'm almost positive my 24-year-old doesn't like it, right? And all the ones in between are going to look at things differently. And I think the reason that reminding myself helps me in general is it's the same way with a car or a truck or a semi-truck or piece of chocolate for that matter. What image speaks to me? You may look and be like, man, this is the ugliest thing I've seen on the planet. However, you turn it a specific way, you lift the body up, you raise the hood, you do a video walk around with imagery, you do something that entices, you put a specs picture up, something is going to speak to these people. And that's your job to find out. It's not their job to come and say, hey, when you do this ad, I want you to put this out there. There's too many of them, right? There's too many people to have that kind of conversation with. So the best thing for you, or even for any dealer to do, is use several images of creative and be ultimately what it is. Be creative, right? And again, this is Carnival Barker creative. Have a Vanna White standing out there, and if you're selling Kenworth, hold up a K and an E and an N as they're walking around the truck and flipping it and make it look different. Be ostentatious, make yourself stand out. That's ultimately what digital marketing is, right? If you want it to be like every other article in the newspaper ad, you could just go to the newspaper. However, this gives you the chance to stand out, right? So I think creative is one area that dealers kind of just are like, well, a picture's a picture. Realistically, a picture is not just a picture. A picture is the money that you're looking to have people invest in and of themselves. They're buying something. So I know a lot of times when I look at pictures, I think of vacations. And am I going to go vacation in the rundown town in the part of Arizona that I'm from that looks horrible with, garbage dumps and garbage and trash all over the place? Or am I going to go vacation in the place that has a clear sandy beach and blue waters and drinks and food and turtles and fish? I'm probably going to go the turtles and fish route. Same way when it comes to selling your vehicles, right? You can do it the old way and just do the bare minimum, which are you still going to move vehicles? Absolutely. But I guarantee you the ones who become more creative, more consistent, more concise, and actually bring out a different message and kind of shine their brand will sell more vehicles just because of the fact that people buy images. They don't buy, and I know this is a reverse thing to say it, people buy images now that are attractive to them and them only. They don't worry about whether it looks good for other people anymore.
No. And I'll tell you, you hit on a couple, many good things. But I would also argue, you might visit that crappy town. If there were great images, you get there, you might be a little disappointed, but you know what? Boy, you can put lipstick on that pig and make it look great, right?
That's true. That is true.
And not every truck is a show truck, but just make sure that it's in its best light. And I can't tell you how many times I see 0 photos on a listing, or I see truck, just like you said, sandwiched in between 2 others. Looks like you don't even care about it. You just walked out, snapped a picture, didn't even bother to move the truck. So, there's some super basics that, again, I believe we covered some of this on the panel, but I like what you're saying about even go even further, guys. Like differentiate yourself. And we could talk about that all day long. That's a very key marketing concept. You've got to differentiate yourself somehow. Why are you different? Why should they buy from you, right?
Yeah.
And images can go a long way on that, not just on your inventory listings, okay? So don't just think about this as inventory listings. Also think about if you're going to utilize social media or something like that. Right. You're going to put some pictures up. Well, what are they going to say? What's the story behind the photo? Because I'll tell you, I a lot of times won't, if you got a whole 3-4 paragraphs, I'm not reading that. I'm looking at the picture, I'm making a quick judgment call, and I'm moving on. If that picture grabs my attention, now I'll dig a little bit deeper, but you better have that one also. So once we start to talk about social media and even blog posts, things like that. What are some strategies these dealers can use that, you know, hearing like, oh my gosh, I got to do social media posts. Like, you know, I'm a small dealership. I'm an independent guy. I'm a large dealership, but I just don't have a huge marketing team that's got it all figured out. How does a dealership manage that? And even with the large marketing teams, maybe they've been doing some things the same for a long time. Are there some strategies there for content creation? And then can you define what content creation might be for a dealership?
Sure. So content creation can be a varied amount of things, right? Content is pretty much anything. When I think of content, I think something that can be easily consumed or even not easily consumed, just some kind of something that speaks about your business, whether it's a static image, right? That's a form of content, whether it's a fully fleshed out ebook, that's a 16-page ebook on the length and history of your business, on what it started out as and what it is now, and the ins and outs of your service department, your parts and everything, right? Regardless of what that is, the content needs to be very direct and succinct upon exactly what Ethan said. What separates you from the dealer 10 miles down the road or the dealer 15 miles down the road? So one of the biggest things I can say for content, off the top, one of the easiest things to do and most actionable things I can recommend for you guys to create content would be start to become comfortable with AI. And yes, Ethan, I'm bringing it up now. I'm going to say it because it's the easiest thing for people to do. If you are struggling, especially if you're a large or small, business, if you have a 50 people marketing department or you're the marketing guy and the business owner, right? AI is there to be your friend. And one of the best things that AI can do is complement your pictures, right? It can actually clean things up for you. You can take a picture if you only got your iPhone, right? And you're sitting there and you're using your iPhone as your photo, camera of choice. Take those images, load them up into that AI, let it clean it up, let it brush up a little bit of the dings and the stuff on it, let it get out the color basics, let it add a background, let it refresh the background, let it become a sepia background, let it do whatever it needs to do to give that picture something, again, that either makes it look cleaner or makes it stand out. And the reason I'm saying AI, and I know it's a scary topic, and I'll even say, yes, I'm not with the Terminator cores, but I do like AI, right? For one reason and one reason only, it's designed to make our lives easier. Now, I believe people misuse it. I think they use AI in a very weird manner at certain times, right? AI is supposed to be ultimately your second brain that just operates on a much quicker, faster, and wider circumference than you can physically do it yourself, right? So when I'm talking about building content and building creative through AI, you're going to want to be very general about what you do for your AI, right? So you don't want to give AI too much information. You don't want to give it things like, first of all, don't give it any kind of info when it comes to like trade secrets or any kind of special sauce that you guys have for your business, right? Even if you're going to want to write a white paper through AI, you're going to want to be, I don't want to say very general, but you're going to want to leave out the secret sauce, right? You're not going to want to tell them what makes the Big Mac in this instance, right? You're going to want to be very general about your uses. You're also going to want to leave things out like sales numbers, right? You're going to want to leave things out like year-to-date cost, or you're going to want to leave out potentially maybe the size of your employees that you have, right? You're just basically going to want to talk about, when you're building content, whatever that content is. And what I mean by whatever that content is, it could be a white paper on the differences of the Volvo that has come out within the last 5-6 months, right? What makes it better versus the previous Volvo, or what makes it stand out versus the International. And the only things you're going to want to focus on in there are exactly what I just said. What makes that Volvo stand out? Trade secrets don't need to go in there. Operating force, how much your dealership moves, nothing has to go in there like that. It has to be generalized and used easily. You don't want to give that stuff away. Secondly, be a little, this will sound crazy when I say it because I'm crazy a little bit when I do this stuff. Be a little insane with AI. Make outlandish requests. Do me a favor and paint that trailer pink and give my back end a tutu, right? See what it does. See how it fits your profile. Obviously, I'm not saying run with something like that, but let AI open up those creative ideas, those content creation ideas, right? If you just give it something ridiculous and it comes back and you're like, man, that is crazy. That does look, wait a minute though. Hey, what about this, right? It's going to help. It is literally there to be the ultimate second brain as far as assistant goes. And it can help you with content. One of the biggest things that I like when it comes to content too, as far as creation goes, Ethan, without a doubt, what makes you better than your competitor? And I absolutely want everyone to do this, right? And here's why I say this. When I grew up, there was a thing called the sandbox, right? I love playing in the sandbox. We're playing in a ginormous sandbox when it comes to used trucks, right? A pretty big sandbox, right? There's a lot of competitors in there. I consider people competing against each other the biggest form of flattery, meaning, man, that guy's doing pretty well. I think I want to do as well as him, or she's doing well. I want to do as well as her, or that company's doing well. So you want to compete. You definitely want to put your name out there. You want to go after market share. You want to make content that not only highlights who you are, but maybe allows brand loyalty to be swerved a different way because of certain things that you offer that maybe your competitor doesn't, and vice versa, right? So this isn't just a one-all be-all for a Kenworth dealer or a used dealer. This is for an everything dealer. Competition is healthy, it's friendly, and not only does it breed a much better marketplace, but it also breeds a better understanding of where you stand digitally, right?
Yeah.
How do I focus digitally when I have competition? Where am I at when it comes to this level versus that level? So I know I said a lot, and I hope that wasn't too much, but ultimately, content to build would be the content that's relevant to help your dealership thrive or help you stand apart. And it also, don't worry about having to go and pay $12,000, $15,000, $20,000 for content. Try AI out, right? I mean, my company, Fusible, we do content. Absolutely. We do white papers, all that stuff. Ethan, I know, offers something very similar, right? Am I saying come to us? No, I'm actually physically telling you guys, try this out on your own. Get the experience. See what can happen. And then, go from there. If you guys do need more of a professional touch, absolutely reach out to one of us, reach out to one of our competitors. Absolutely. Everybody has really good things that they can help and write about, but you would be missing a boat by not at least dipping your toe into the one of 220 different AIs that are out there at this point that can help with business productivity, creating images, and creating content. So that's my thoughts on that.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that was great. I'm going to point out a couple of things for our listeners. Okay. Number one, if you are going to compare something, or you're going to ask AI to do anything, AI will hallucinate, is what it's called, and it will make up facts that don't exist. And then even if you ask it, does this truck really come with 1,200 horsepower? It'll be like, nah, I just made that up. Yeah. And it'll be like, whoa, okay, can you not do that? And it might do it again. So it will hallucinate, okay, and do some things like that. So the way I look at it, and I know you do as well, is it is there to make you better, not to replace you or your team. Okay. So if you have content creators, let them, use the AI to shorten the amount of time that it takes to get from point A in content creation to point B. Okay. And what that means is, sure, run your question through AI, let it answer, but you're always going to want to put your spin on it. You'll add some extra details. It's just like a draft for you to work from, but it shortens your time dramatically. So if you're doing blog posts about your dealership, like, hey, here's the top 10 things a service department needs to do, things like that, AI can help you do that very quickly and efficiently, saving you precious time and energy. But you don't want to just use what AI gives you. You need to go in and tweak it and make it your own, and then use it as your blog post or whatever the use case is for that. So I wanted to point that out to the listeners because we've definitely experienced that and seen it firsthand where some crazy stuff gets popped in there, and in fact check it and then make it your own. Are some of the things that I want to point out. But no, Ramon, that was excellent. So as these guys are using AI, as they're using these different tools, what should they be doing to expand their their reach though. So great, I can make content, just kind of more some rapid fire stuff. Like, where should they be putting content up to help them? And is it a matter of they put the content up and tomorrow they're going to get an extra 500 leads and things like that? Or how does that work? Is it
right? So first things first, and I'm always a proponent of this when it comes to where are you going to put a content up. I mean, this is going to sound like a crazy response, but you want to put it up in front of the most relevant audience that you can, right? So that's ultimately first and foremost what you really have to do. Now, if you're a dealer, right? Say you're a used truck dealer here, and you have a CRM that is full of data. Say you have things like people who have bought and serviced before, people who have purchased several vehicles before, right? And you might want to go as far back as maybe 3-4 years to see where what information you've gathered. Break it down into buckets, service buckets, people who are fitting the sales bucket who have bought into vehicles for sales, maybe even people who have come in specifically for parts or promotions. I guess you could kind of add parts, promotions, and service all into one bucket, and then sales into another bucket. And the reason I say this is people in parts and service are typically going to do one of two things. They're either going to come in to buy a part, or they're going to come in for service, right? That's something they have to break that threshold to come into your shop for. So something like that where you want to remarket with your CRM some of the content you had, like, hey, say you guys are adding a new service bay, or say you guys are adjusting your part specials, or this month you're now starting to offer part specials and service specials when you didn't before. You may want to take that list of people that you have, load that list into, a Facebook, or load that list into a Google to give it a little direction, and then maybe add a couple lookalikes, right, to that from Google if you can. Now, one thing I will say about lookalikes, they can be a little not lookalikes. And what I mean by that is you're going to enter in people that have already been in your business and have actually completed a service, or bought a part, or purchased a vehicle of some sorts. When Google and Facebook, those lookalike or similar to audiences, a lot of time those audiences they'll have a kid who's, and I always like to use this example because it happens a lot. They'll have a kid who's 20 years old and is doing a paper for college that is, writing the difference in price on a Kenworth X model back in the 1970s versus a Kenworth X model today in 2024, right? You don't care about that guy. I mean, I don't care about that guy if I'm selling a truck, right?
So not going to buy a truck.
Right. He might write about it, but that's not the guy you want to serve an ad to. So ultimately, it's ensuring that you have a good enough, large enough audience of people. You have the ability to load it onto a platform like Facebook or Google. Google's a little bit better because you can actually customize your audiences, right, and do things and go in there where you can enter URLs and lookalikes, people who go to this URL from this geolocation, right? If you're located in Texas and you're a dealer in Texas and your area of record for used trucks is, let's just say, Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Louisiana, Missouri, and Indiana, you're not going to want to serve ads to people outside of there because in your wheelhouse, that's typically where everyone will drive in for a used truck ad. Well, that's what you want to do in Google. That's what you want to do in Facebook. You want to geo-restrict things. You don't want to serve out nationally. You want to serve out where you're comfortable with your area of record, number one. Number two, actually, there is no number two. That is kind of number one. And you want to serve not only where you're comfortable at, but make sure that it's within your area of record. And if you're trying to expand your area of record, make sure you have the money to do so digital wise, because at that point you're going to start encompassing a lot of people and spend who you may not have access to or may not be part of your audience.
Not super relevant. So what you're saying is if I go into Facebook, there's a way to upload my email addresses to get potential matches on Facebook of users on Facebook. And then that becomes your audience.
Correct.
That you can push ads out to. I'm just trying to break it down a little.
Yep.
And then once you have that audience, then you can use Facebook or those features that are like in Facebook, you'd have a lookalike audience that will match those customers, or those emails, that audience, to an audience that looks very similar to them in their habits and all the other things, all the other metrics that they can match to. So, and then once they're in there in Facebook, there's a threshold, right? There's a scale. So you can say a 1% match to 100% match.
Correct.
And if it's a 1%,
it's only got to have one data point.
Yeah, it's going to have that. So my opinion on this is as tight as you can keep that, so you can get, a small number of matches, or you can increase it so you get 2 million matches, because like it goes hog wild, right? And it says, oh, they're males. Okay. There's a bunch of those on here, and that's it. So you don't want that, right? You want to be as specific as possible in that, and have Facebook only give you people that match a lot of that criteria. So that would be like maybe a 1 or 2% of all of their audience match. Correct. Versus 100% of, like you Correct. You can crank it up, and that'll save you money, and marketing to the correct audience is the key here. And the other thing is, if you're doing a geo-specific ad and you're picking a region, it's going to be a lot cheaper for you to start there. And that's, I think, what you're saying is, for that digital dollar to go further, if I'm in Texas, I don't necessarily want to be advertising in Vermont, because maybe that's not your best audience. That's, even though you could kick up a deal or two there potentially, is it worth the extra ad spend? So keep it local, start there, and then as you have success, start expanding that audience to where you think it makes sense.
You hit that right on the head, especially with the geolocation. I will tell you, you will get a much better match rate if you do it like by your area of record, like again by state, as opposed to saying let's just go national, because then at that point, nationwide, the match rate for the nation, even if you put it at 1%, is still going to be ginormous, right? It's still going to be huge. So you do want to drill down exactly like you're saying, Ethan. You hit it right on the head. You do want to control that audience by ensuring that it matches up to about 1% or 2% tops of that Facebook audience. You don't want everyone in there. You want people with the same behavioral, and that's ultimately what it is the same behaviors. They visit the same type of sites. They visit the same type of things. They have the same type of search queries. That's what you guys want really to get in front of, are people who are literally similar to what you guys are loading in there, and then really control it by being geo-specific. You can be as geo-specific as, drilling down to zip codes that you want to be a part of. Maybe you may not want to be in a whole state. You only want to cover half of Texas, right? You want to cover that. You can literally cover cities or counties and things of that nature, but be as geo-specific as you can to not only help with the audience, but ensure that you're not getting in front of people that, again, like Ethan said, you're in Texas, you might get a deal or two out of Vermont, but is the juice worth the squeeze, as they say at that point? Right.
Right. Yeah. I'd rather get 50 deals out of my AOR than one deal out of Vermont, and I spend 30 times the amount to get that one deal, right? So just things you guys need to consider, whatever makes sense for you and your dealership. And if you're multiple locations, that certainly changes the game, but it also, changes how you're going to shift to some of these markets. So just pay attention to all those things, and I think you're going to be way, way ahead of the competition. Ramon, so I've talked to several dealerships that and advised them on this, and we also talked about this on our panel, but I'm just going to ask you the question of, okay, so I want to get into social media, but man, I'm a one-man band, or I'm the only marketing person, and I have several platforms to update. I know one of the things we tell dealerships and guide them to is their content's the best. I think you're going to agree with me. Whatever content they come up is going to be way better than anything else that's available at this point. Even if you hire somebody to do it or whatever, your content, your voice is going to be the strongest. And as you're building out that creative, yes, you can use AI, but also make sure it's in your voice and your tone, and you're doing all those things, and it's speaking to your audience. On top of that, so you've got Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. How the heck is a dealership supposed to keep up with all those? And what is there any technology out there that can shortcut that?
There is technology out there that can shortcut that. However, I'm not going to give recommendations on that technology because I don't want anybody to hold my feet to the fire.
Okay.
There are APIs and connectors that can have you do kind of a single one for all. Like you could go into a HubSpot or a Marketo and kind of do a singular load where it just pushes everything out to all those platforms at once. At that point, though, a lot of the times you do lose a lot of control, right? So that's one of the things where I do have, if you're willing to give up control and you have plenty of creative, then you can use like a Marketo or someone that connects several platforms into one, and you can upload your ads and creatives and then have them dynamically serve out on, Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook and Google all at the same time, right? However, it's going to take its own ideas, like you said, because it is AI, and start to build dynamically things. So it may build things that are not as exactly brand approved, so to speak, right? Yep. So I just want you to be aware of that. But there are different things you can use out there where you can literally load images, text, and creative into one singular platform, have this platform that will plug in to a Facebook and to a Google Ads, and then it'll plug in into a LinkedIn and plug in into, a TikTok or a Twitter, right? Or an X or wherever you're looking at it. And then you simply use that singular platform and it does everything for you, right?
Post all of it at the same time on a schedule.
Will post everything.
Your content.
Yep. I'm sorry.
So your content that you create.
Your content. Yep.
Okay.
Something like that, you have to do your own creative content, which is why I was recommending AI to help with content creation, right? Yep. But there are platforms out there that you can use that are, I believe it's called multi-channel platform integration, where you're able to integrate several different channels, like we're talking about Facebook and LinkedIn, into a singular platform, and you can just load all the creative there and then have it kind of, for lack of a better term, it's dynamically done. Kind of an AI is in there basically saying, okay, you loaded this and you want this to run from this time to that time, and this is the spend. Here's what I think the best way to do it is. And so it'll do that for you if you guys are looking for that. There's also other places that offer services like that, right? I know Ethan does. I know my company Fusible does. I know there's a couple other companies out there that offer that. If you guys are ever worried about something like that, you always can reach out to us. But if you're more than worried, and I wouldn't say more than worried, but if you're more like, hey, I really want to be hands-on, I would look into those platforms that offer the ability to do singular creative load and then push it out and flesh it out to several other platforms dynamically. That will take a massive workload off of your plate, a massive one.
Yeah, and I'm going to say it. I'm going to say like, a Hootsuite, not to promote one over another or anything.
Right.
But, something like a Hootsuite where you can load that content in, and then it's going to push your content on a schedule to the multiple platforms. So really you're doing the work once. You do have to tweak it, though, to be, what's your Instagram version, what's your Facebook, LinkedIn should be pretty similar, but maybe Twitter might be a little bit different. But a lot of times that can be a time saver potentially. Yep.
A lot of times on those platforms, the creative will be the same as far as the images, right? Because there's only so many display sizes that people will go through. The one thing that people have to be cognizant for, which you're very right of, is going to be the way the text is delivered, right? Dynamic text, how the overlay is, right? And then also when you are delivering those images, is the 92 or 920 by 70 image, does it look the same on Facebook as it does in Google? Are there brands cut off and stuff like that? So you're 100% right. And just to kind of give some alternatives to Hootsuite, I don't want to make Ethan feel like he's in the hot suite here. I would do maybe Sendable, Sprout Social, Social Pilot, Zoho Social, Buffer. All those ones are definitely geared to help you with not only encompassing several platforms at once, but assisting like one-man bands or two-man shows with the ability to load everything into a singular platform and just have it feed out to everywhere you want it to.
Awesome. Yep. Thanks for that. So, So, Ramon, what else should we be talking about before we wrap this up for our listeners? What other key takeaways should they be taking from this podcast? And certainly you guys can reach out to either one of us And, we're happy just to talk about this. This isn't
Absolutely.
always about, we're industry guys that want to make our industry better. We're not, doesn't mean you have to do business with us, but hey, let's talk about it. Right. And we both love that kind of conversation. So what do you got? Anything?
I think one of the things that I've noticed, and this is kind of more of a I guess a digital lesson I'm going to kind of preach on right now. And sorry if I'm getting preachy, everybody. Don't mean to be preachy when it comes to this, but one of the things I've noticed dealers do is what I call tourist driving, digital wise, right? So when you're a tourist in a new city, you want to see as much as you can and drive as fast as you can until you get to an area where you're unsure. And that unsure area, right? Maybe you might slow down or veer around it or hold on, take a pause and brake. Should I drive through? Until you maybe become what that area is. The same thing for digital marketing. A lot of times folks will pull back, right? Like, I'll just give an example. Last couple of years in digital marketing, we have seen somewhat of a decrease when it comes to specific types of dealers. However, other dealers who are aware of what you guys are doing do not have that decrease. So one of the things I want everybody to keep in mind, right? As you peel off the gas and say, hey, this year I'm forecasting this, the one piece of gas that you do not want to peel off of is your digital ad spend. Yes, I understand about tapering it down, but bringing it down to almost bare minimum or even unnoticeable ad spend levels will have a detrimental value to your business in the future. It has been proven over and over and over again. And the best and easiest place for me to say that is the Dallas Cowboys at one point in time did not own the right to DallasCowboys.com. They had to buy that from somebody because someone was more savvy than them and went and purchased that up, right? Same concept here. You don't want to just pull back and completely say, oh, well, we'll do fine without it. We've been doing fine with before. The landscape has completely changed. Digital marketing is the landscape now, right? I'm not going to say the days of print are long gone and past because there's still print in use, but the days of print are not nearly as prevalent as the days of digital. I believe all communication done nowadays, 85% of it is digital. I believe 15% is print now. So I say that to say this. I don't remember ever there being a time in the history of print where people were like, you know what, do me a favor, go pull that half-page ad I've had running for the last 2 years. No one ever did that. No one ever said, hey, just because we're going through a downturn or a downtime, I'm going to pull that image out of this particular magazine that I've had that has brought me success over a particular amount of time. You got to look at that the same way as it is in digital. Pulling all the way back or scaling down too much will cause your competitors to overlap you, leap you, and start to come on top of you in search engine results. So please just be cognizant of that. And I say that because at this time, I have seen the purse strings starting to loosen up where people are starting to spend more. I'm getting dealers telling me trucks are moving like crazy. Hey, Ramon, I need to start new campaigns because now I'm going to have X, X, and X. As I start to see this and they start to throw more and more money our way for digital, that means your competitors and your competitors and your competitors are all getting ready to make this spot that was once an easy and open wide range a more competitive and much smaller sandbox to play in. So if anything I can say is don't be afraid to dip your toe in the pool. Be cautious, but remember, those who do will succeed heavily, heavily, heavily versus those who don't.
Absolutely. Yep. Couldn't agree more. And I'll tell you, I've probably got about 30 more topics if you got 3 more hours at least. But I don't think we do today. So I'm going to invite you to come back at some point and maybe we can cover some of these other topics that I know you and I both love to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, I think we're going to let our audience kind of marinate on what we talked about today, digest that a little bit. And that is an excellent place to start what we talked about today, looking at, even starting to play with some of the AI tools, looking at local search optimization, doing some of the search engine techniques that we talked about. And on top of all of that, guys, start to look at your digital strategy as a permanent part of your advertising strategy. Yep. And, you need to make it about you. This is about your digital strategy about driving traffic to your dealership. That's a shift in the thinking here, but that's where it's at. So you've got to have that footprint out there. And with that, Ramon, I want to thank you once again for being on today. This was gold. I think if some of these things are taken into the dealership, that's invaluable to these guys. So thank you.
And I'm only here to help, guys. You know, the digital age it's upon us. It's no longer coming. It's here. So, you know, I had a great time talking about this. I'd love to come back, Ethan. Right. I hope everyone enjoys what we talked about. I know I do. So anytime, Ethan, I'm able. Yeah.
Well, this was fun, man. I appreciate you. And for all of our listeners, take these tips and techniques and use them, apply them to get your trucks off the lot and over the curb.